quickly, because I think we are finally getting some important patterns besides the indecision pattern that we've seen for so long. The indecision pattern I'm referring to is best reflected in silver. This is SLV, which I'm using to track silver. I know it's not the same as spot, but it's close. And you can see that we've moved in this sideways channel. We've now risen above it and established that it is holding as a support line, and doesn't mean we'll continue to, but I think that that's fairly bullish. You notice that we'll also have, let's steal this line for a moment. You notice that there is also this not totally perfect trend line, but there is this trend line being established to the upside. So I think, particularly for those who accumulate physical silver in small quantities over a period of time, you may as well keep buying. There's no guarantee that this will continue. It is speculative, but there's the trend for you. Obviously, some of the things that we look at in regards to that are also gold. Gold is up to new highs. It has this similar trend line starting back here at the low, at this low, if you want to call it a low, but at this point, and that trend line seems pretty well established. I hope the fan's coming on my computer. I hope that's not causing us problems. Forgive me, please. But we'll compare that to the dollar, and the dollar looks to be in pretty bad shape. This is UUP, which is the PowerShares Dollar Index Bullish Fund. I use it as one of my dollar trend following tools. And the dollar is kind of coming apart at the seams. Not a shock to anybody who follows the metals, but there it is. Lastly, we will look at the S&P 500 real briefly. I think we have a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder. They're very close together, and I suppose you could argue it's a triple top, but really, no. Let's go into the one-year chart again. I do think it is a form of head and shoulders pattern. I don't know for sure. I'll grab this trend line for a moment and reposition it. We'll look at that. You know, here's the issue. Is this a channel? Is this accumulation? Or is this distribution? Distribution would mean that the smart money is distributing the stocks they own, and that the weak money is buying it. Accumulation would mean that it's the smart money that's buying and the not so smart money that's selling. But there's a sideways channel and pattern here. Given the weak dollar, the S&P has a reason to become stronger. Not only, well, won't go into all the details, but obviously the dollar situation throws everything into a real tizzy here. But this is what we've got at the moment. Notice that, excuse me, I didn't mean to move that line. There's that support line. It was once overhead resistance. Now it's support. There's this line. And we're right there. I hate to predict the future on this one, and I don't mean to predict the future, but there's a lot to think about relative to that. Here's DXYO, the other dollar index that I follow. Again, this trend line broken to the downside. It will snap back to that line-ish. Not very bullish, but again, we could easily be faked out. Very strange markets, a lot of politics. It's not pure technical analysis anymore. And that is the quick snapshot I want to give you. Might as well look at RJA, which is the Rogers International Commodity Index. Jim Rogers has been very bullish, on commodities. But what we see here in this time frame is a decline, a declining trend in the commodity index. It's about a 20% decline, roughly speaking. And then we have the Rogers International Commodity Index for total energy. Strange spike in there. That's that funny natural gas day, probably. But steal this for a second and go draw that. Still have more or less of a downtrend line in those areas. So, can't really feel good about saying to jump into commodities. I think there is an argument to be made about deflation versus inflation. I think we're going to see inflation continue with gasoline and food and other things that we must have, and deflation continue with houses and other items which we must have but are the big capital expenses. I'm going to keep it short as I can here, so that's pretty much where I want to jump out. For the sake of argument, though, I will look at a couple of dividend stocks. The one that I really, in particular, want to show you is Southern Company, if I can find it real quickly. Well, first of all, Exxon, of course, is always relevant because so many people own it. Top, decline, breaks that trend line, failed challenge up, or waterfall down, right there. That looks like a stock about to decline. There are those who say oil will decline. I'm not sure I believe that, but there are those who are saying that, and they are smarter than I am, so who knows, maybe there's something to it. The company I want to show you was Southern Company, and if I can't find it real quick, I'll skip it. AT&T, another company that a lot of people own, double top, big decline. My worry is that this phenomenon is the canary in the mine shaft, telling us that the markets are going to see declines. This is a stock that went from almost 32 down to 28, and it doesn't look like that's over. You can do those percentages as well as I can. I'll go one more place and see if we can't find ourselves Southern Company, because I think Southern Company is a strong company. Here's Southern Company. Top, decline. From 40 to 39.5. Territory doesn't seem like much, it really isn't. But this is a very strong stock, and I'm wondering if it's topping or are these buying opportunities. I just don't know. We'll find out with that one. And I want to point out the HNP, I won't try to pronounce it, it's a Chinese power company. There's the name. I do own this. I'm sorry to say. And it's getting pounded. Breaks the line, snaps back, declines again. Notice that this decline is roughly the same as this decline. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So that's my report for tonight, Sunday, the 31st of July. Hope you have a good, profitable week, and I hope the government can keep it together and we don't have any urgent major crises this week. Thank you.